We've all heard of this idea that most of us are using only about 10% of what our minds are capable of. That so much of the rest of it, I suppose 90% of it, kind of lays dormant and unused, but when activated, allows us to do so much more in our lives. And the fact of the matter is, when we do specific things, we absolutely can unlock these different parts of our mind in order to be able to create our lives, our reality in the ways that we want. You see, many of us have been raised to be what's called left-brained thinkers, which is just a way to say we are taught to be more analytical, calculated, and so on. But only doing this causes us to completely miss out on the full potential of our mind, as the other side of our brains, once activated, are what allow us to tap into the unseen and start bringing it into the seen. This is the part of ourselves that allows for just these amazing ideas, inspiration, intuition to start coming into our lives much more frequently. It allows us to essentially co-create with the unknown instead of only operating from the known and what information we already currently have. See, the fact of the matter is, if you are relying heavily on being a left-brain thinker, you will never get anywhere near your full potential when it comes to intentionally creating your reality. And this really is the trap that most people find themselves in because, again, we've been raised to be left-brained thinkers. We are essentially trying to create something out of everything that we can currently see. The fact of the matter, though, is, do you believe the solution to some of your problems that you currently have are contained within what is already in your life, the seen? Or do you believe that that solution is in existence in the unseen? Do you believe that that next great idea or inspiration or whatever it is that would actually help transform your life is something that you could already know about or see? Or is it something that we would have to call upon from the unseen? Well, the fact of the matter is, if you knew about it already, if it was already in front of you, you would probably be using it and already getting the results, the solution, or whatever else it is. And so it is imperative to tap into this part of our mind, this part of ourself that actually draws in the unknown and the unseen and brings it into the seen, which is when we can use our analytical mind in the way it was meant to be used and to our benefit. So in this video, we're going to go over how to use more of the full potential of your mind in order to bring in those ideas, inspiration, intuition that will provide you the roadmap to the life you want to live. You'll learn how to use your mind more intentionally and more powerfully to create the reality in the ways that you want. And I'll also provide you with some very specific tools that are practical and tangible that are going to help you actually get results, because again, we don't want just theory, we don't just want information or philosophy. We want things we can actionize, because that's what's actually going to get tangible results in your life. So let's jump into it. So like I mentioned in the intro, the left brainer is more logical, analytical, and linear. And I want you to remember that word linear because it's what ties into this so much, because ultimately life itself is non-linear. And if we are only thinking in a linear way, we are missing out on the non-linear aspect of life and tapping into that in order to benefit our own lives. Because we seem to think that things connect from A to B to C to D, and that's great when you have already things in the seen or the known to work with. When you have bricks that are already there, you can build something with it. But what if you need to bring in new types of bricks? What if you need to bring in something different that is outside the realm of the known or what you can already see? Well, if we can only think in a linear way, we will never be able to tap into that non-linear aspect in the way that life actually operates in order to help us. And so in this video, you're going to learn how to tap into that part to bring new bricks, so to speak, to build upon in your life so that you're just able to create more for yourself. You see, not only does life operate in a non-linear fashion, but one thing to really keep in mind, and something that's an immutable law of the universe, is the idea that the outer world, which just means the external world, so your physical world, the world that the left brain mainly deals with, follows the inner world, which is actually the world your right brain connects into, tunes into, brings things from. The outer world follows the inner world. And not only that, it has been shown that 99.999999% of reality, of what you are experiencing, is actually energy or empty space and or empty space. And that only 0.0000001% is physical matter reality. It is that tiny percentage that makes up physical matter reality that comes out of that vast majority of what reality is made up of, which is the inner world. The inner world is the aspect of yourself that is more what we call the right-brained aspect. The physical world is more the left-brained aspect, the more analytical, logical, working with what's already here. The right brain is what can bring new things into coming into the here and now in this moment. So to make it very easy, just think of left brain being more the linear processes in life, it's more linear, and the right brain being the non-linear. But also remember that the non-linear is the dominating power force in the universe, that 99.9+% that makes up of what most is here. And then when we bring that about, we can use the left brain, the linear process, to piece things together. But if we're not bringing in enough of those bricks, if we're not bringing things in from the unseen into the seen, we're going to be very limited with what we can work with, and we may start trying to force outcomes, which is never going to really end up in good results for ourselves. So it goes without saying that most people are not tapping into the potential of what we call the right brain or the right brain level of thinking in order to tap in to that unseen, into that 99.9+% that makes up reality. In fact, most people aren't even aware of this, so of course they're not really using it. Now, I want to go over an analogy that I think ties into this very, very potently, and it's called the Lego factory analogy. And so imagine that in your life, everything is kind of like a Lego brick. So there are these Lego bricks in your life. These represent the physical stuff of your life. And these Lego bricks come from the Lego factory. Now, the Lego factory represents the universe or God, or kind of like the non-physical, right? Where these physical things come from. It's the inner world versus the outer world. Now, most people, what happens is they are taking the current Lego bricks that are already in their life, and they're trying to force them and mold them into what they want. Essentially, they're using the Lego bricks already there to try and create what they want. But it might be that some of these Lego bricks are not meant to be this thing that you want or you picture in your mind, and that you don't actually have the bricks needed to create that. And what most people do is then they try and take what's already here and mold it and fashion it into something that it is not, but it is already physical matter reality. It's very hard to change that once it is here. But when we access the right brain, when we access more of this intuition and inspiration and ideas, instead of fighting the bricks that are already here, it is like going into the Lego factory itself and making a new order to the people who are creating the Lego bricks so that new Lego bricks can start coming into your life. And when those new Lego bricks are starting to come into the factory, these new opportunities, events, people, whatever else it is, then the left brain can get involved to organize them, to be logical about them, to be analytical, to bring them together and piece them together in a way that is coherent and serves your life. But if we're not accessing that right part of the brain, if we are not accessing that other part and bringing these two parts to form a cooperative partnership, then we're never going into the Lego factory and making the request. And we're just fighting everything that's currently in the seen and not tapping into the amazing potential of the unseen, which in this analogy is the Lego factory. So just think of it as the current Lego bricks in your life equals the linear process. This is great for the left brain to put things together, but the right brain equals the potential bricks going in and making the order. And going into the Lego factory, we're going to go over it later, but different brainwave states. Theta brainwave state, which is actually the brainwave state you're in when you're meditating, is how we go into the Lego factory and start creating the order, but we'll cover that in a little bit later. Now, I want to give you another analogy because I really want to drive this point home and make sure that you're getting it. And this is called the radar screen analogy. And this one can sometimes be a little easier to understand. The Lego brick one is also a really good one to describe manifestation and using certain principles like the mirror principle and other things. But the radar screen analogy is this. Just imagine that everything physical in your life, everything you can see is on a radar screen. You know what a radar screen looks like? It has kind of blips on it, you know, different things, and it indicates what's there. And so this represents your physical life. And most people are only looking at that radar screen and trying to construct their life and move things about in their life from the things that they can see on the radar screen. But everything that you want in life, everything that you want to move into, all those potentials are actually outside the radar screen. They are off the radar screen in a place you cannot see. The problem is if you continually only put your focus on the radar screen, which we're relating to just being left-brained, you miss out on everything else that's off the radar screen that you could potentially bring in to the screen. And so this is what activating the other part of our brain is like, activating that other part of ourselves, that more intuitive, inspired idea part of ourselves. We can call it heart-centered part of ourselves too. When we activate that, when we bring that in correspondence or coherence with the left brain part of ourselves, that's when we can start bringing things from the unseen off the radar screen into the scene that's on the radar screen and then start to play and engage with those things. But if we do not get into coherence and synchronization by bringing that other side of ourselves in, we cannot bring in things from outside of the radar screen. People who are left-brain thinkers typically put all their focus on the radar screen, which is like putting their focus on that really tiny percentage I went over earlier, which is the 0.00001%. It's like putting all of your focus there instead of on what actually is making up most of reality. And so ultimately what we want here is the left and right part of our brains working in synchronization, kind of the logical part of ourselves and the feeling part of ourselves working in tandem as a team. And it's the way it's meant to be. But for so many people, they're in conflict, they're combative, or one is completely dominating while the other is not even coming out to play at all. For a lot of people, it's left brain thinkers who are just dominating that side because we're raised that way. But there are people who are right brain thinkers who never get the left side that they need as well. So they have a ton of ideas, a ton of inspiration, but they never act upon it. They never actually materialize it because they're just there thinking of all the ideas, having all that come in, but never putting it into actual action, never organizing it, analyzing it, making it logical, bringing it down to earth, so to speak. And so we want both of these parts in synchronization, because when you do, you can suddenly bring in new Lego bricks and know how to put them together when these are working together. You will know how to start attracting things from off the radar screen, which is from all potentialities, into your life, into the radar screen of what is your physical life. Another way to put this is getting the heart and mind to work together. And yes, we're going to be going over how to do this, some tools that are going to help you to be able to practically do this in powerful ways. So in this next part, I want to go over a more scientific perspective of this, which we're going to do through what's called different brain wave frequencies. You see, your brain is in a different level of frequency depending on your state and a few other factors. And these different states correspond to different ways of being. Meaning when you're in one state, you're going to act a certain way and be a certain way. When you're in another state, you're going to act and be a certain way. You'll also gain access to different things. Now, most of us, we're in what's called a beta brainwave state. And this is kind of the everyday life kind of brainwave state when you're just going throughout your day. Maybe you're kind of on autopilot. It's also the brainwave state at the higher levels, like when you're at a high beta brainwave state, that's fear and fight or flight mode. And a lot of people are operating at that place. But you can think of beta as being more a left-brained kind of state of being. Now, the next brainwave state is called the alpha brainwave state. Now, the alpha brainwave state is still a left brain, for the most part, way of being. However, it is much more focused. You can think of this as the kind of state you would be in when you're flowing with your work. You're reading something and you're so deeply into it. You're engaged. You're really focused. You're maybe working on a paper and all of the pieces are just coming together. You're flowing so well with it. All those Lego bricks that you know are there, you're just able to piece them together so coherently. Now, they're already there, but you are taking all of those things and in a very coherent, linear way, able to piece them all together. This is the alpha brainwave state. This is actually an amazing brainwave state to be in when you're learning, when you're trying to work on a project that doesn't require you to bring in new things as of yet, but requires you to take existing things and piece them together in a coherent way that makes sense. And I'm going to go over some tools you can use later to get yourself into these brainwave states. Now, the next brainwave state is called theta brainwave state. This is when we are switching from more to left brain into what we are calling in this video the right brain. This is when you are moving into more of an inner world state. So think of beta and alpha more as the outer world states, and theta and the other one we're going to cover as the inner. And so theta brainwave state is similar to a meditative state. In fact, it's not similar. When you are in meditation and deeper levels of meditation, you will be at a theta brainwave state. This is when you are now able to access the Lego factory, to walk in and make orders. This is the state of being when you are more tapped into source and things outside of the radar screen. This is when you are priming yourself for inspiration and ideas to come from something beyond the mind, something outside of yourself and the physical being that you are when you're in theta. The next brainwave state is delta. It's the last one we're going to be going over, and this is even deeper than theta, and this is usually the brainwave state you're in when you're in deep sleep. So when you're deep in your REM cycle, when you're in that very deep sleep mode, you're in delta. Usually you're kind of going between theta and delta. When you're dreaming, I believe you're more in theta, for example. But delta is almost like a super regenerative, healing state of being. And actually, some people who are very good meditators can achieve this state through meditation. So why am I telling you this? Well, I want to make it easier for you to be able to access both of these states of being. So being able to access more being a left brain thinker and a right brain thinker, and to use them more strategically. Because don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with being a left brain thinker. But if it's the only thing you're doing, you're missing out again on all those possibilities. In the same way, if you're only a right brain thinker and you're more the person who's in that state of being, you're probably not actionizing anything and then wondering, why am I not getting the results? I'm in the good feelings, I'm raising my vibration, whatever else it is, but then you're not organizing it, you're not bringing it into the physical, right? So we want them in cooperation. And I'm going to go over how you can use these brainwave states and the awareness of them to put yourself into them intentionally, and then get your left and right brain working together to actually produce results for yourself. So again, beta and alpha, think of it like working with the existing Lego bricks, or you are working with the existing Lego bricks already in the physical. Theta and delta is bringing in new potential bricks, is bringing things that are from the unseen into the seen. You have more access to potential when you're in those brainwave states. And ultimately, what we're going for here is to inspire yourself, draw in ideas, attract to yourself different things from theta and delta, and then to actionize them ideally from a low beta or from an alpha state. So let's go over a few tools that are going to help you to access both of these parts, activate more of your mind and just your full being in order to create the reality you want to create. Now, this first one is going to synchronize the brain, specifically the left and right hemispheres of the brain. And it's such a simple one. If you really want to concentrate and focus, this is something that you can do just to activate both sides of your brain. It's, I forget the exact name, it's like called a crossover drill or whatever else. But all you do is you touch your right elbow, have it up like this. You're not going to be able to see me do it fully, but to your left knee, and you kind of bring that up, and then you do the same on the other side. So you would be here and you would go like that. There's actually like an ab muscle like exercise you can do that's similar, but you're going to do that about 50 times going at a decent pace. And I'll have a clip come across right now to show you again what that looks like, although you may not see all of my body. And you're just going to do this about 50 times. This is going to just activate and kind of really light up both sides of your brain, which is going to help you to sync them up and for you to focus a lot better. This is, again, a great thing to do if you have an idea session you need to engage with, or a focus session. It's just going to get your brain more engaged, wake it up, and help you with that process. Now, another amazing thing that you can do is to listen to what's called binaural beats. Now, you may have heard of this, but this is something that will actually be calibrated at a certain brainwave state or help your brain get into a certain frequency. For example, you can find binaural beats that allow you to get into an alpha brainwave state. Something I like to do is I have specific ones that help me with certain things. So if I'm gonna really piece together certain existing Lego bricks in my life, a certain idea, whatever else it is, I'll do this a lot for videos if I'm already very aware of what I'm gonna be speaking about, is I will put on alpha alpha wave binaural beats as I do that work. And I find that I flow with it much better. I'm much more efficient. It seems like almost my IQ and intelligence in the moment goes up because I'm way more in coherence when it comes to the alpha state. And so that's one thing you can do to, again, rearrange or recreate using the existing Lego bricks already in your life. Now, that's for the alpha state, but for theta, we can do exactly the same thing. When you want to visualize, when you want to meditate, when you want to go into the Lego factory and make a request, when you want to do something to access the things off your radar screen, to draw in things, new Lego bricks into your life, you can use theta binaural beats to help you achieve that. This will help your brain waves to drop down into that theta state, and the longer you can stay in that theta brainwave state, the more you are accessing the inner world, the more you are accessing those things off your radar screen. And you will find throughout the day that you might have now these random waves of inspiration or ideas come through because you're opening up that gateway. And what I would recommend is making sure you capture these things and then use the alpha state in order to organize them together, come up with the ideas, and actually follow through on the inspiration that's coming in. And that's actually the next thing I want to talk about, because again, a lot of people think when it comes to reality creation or doing all these things that you just have to think a certain way or feel a certain way, and that's absolutely true. It's a part of the process. But if you actually want material things, success, manifestation, if you want more money in your life, a certain relationship, you want to live in a certain house in a certain area, then there needs to be action, and you need to trust the non-linear process. And so what I mean is, as you are starting to synchronize up your mind more, as you are starting to access the alpha brainwave state more, the theta brainwave state more, or should I say when you're accessing theta more, you need to capture what starts coming through, because it won't be redundant. If you find an idea comes in out of nowhere, it probably is from out of nowhere. Why? It wasn't on your radar screen. It was off the radar screen, but through doing these things, you have attracted it in. Now, that idea is potential. It is not actualization. It is not something that is formed. It is potential from off your radar screen. It is a potential Lego brick. Think of it like a Lego brick mold that could be constructed, that could be put into commission to be made, but you have to take the action on it. And so when those ideas come in, when that inspiration that connects with you comes in, which they will if you're doing this, then use the left part of your brain to start creating that. You now have this brick in your hand, but if you just toss it away and don't do anything with it, it's not going to have any effect in your life. And so when these ideas start coming through, write them down, and even better, take at least one action towards its fulfillment right away. Because when you take a physical action, you move a lot of energy towards that thing. And then the next action can unfold, then the next action from there. But this is so crucial. As you're getting this synchronization of your brain, your mind in place, as you are using more of your ability to create and you're unlocking these things, you have to start actionizing it, or else again, it's just going to be potentials that you never engage with. So allow these ideas to come in more from the right brain, but then acted upon from the left brain. Now, one more tool I want to leave you with is a much better understanding of how the inner world is actually creating your outer. Because if you're confused by this or don't understand this at a deep level, it's going to be really hard to play with some of the ideas we mentioned in this video. So I'd go watch this video next, where I go over how when you really understand how to facilitate things from the inner world, that it will start creating your outer. And once you understand this, so much is going to start to move in your life, so much is going to start to make sense, and so much from the non-linear is going to start acting in your life in beautiful ways.